Gather round, young ones, as I tell you the tale of the Gorgon Medusa, how she came to be, and how, too, so came to be her hatred of heroes and mortal men and women alike, her discord with the gods, until she ultimately was slew by Perseus. Medusa, on her first day of life, took it as any other day, born from a union of Porcus and Keto. She was a Gorgon, snake-headed, similar to all of her Gorgon siblings, of which there were two. Those two being Stheno and Uriel. But you see, Medusa was born quite different than them. Of her siblings, she was the only one that was not immortal. She was the only one that retained mortality and would not live a long lifespan. And at first, Medusa was fine with this. On her first day as a Gorgon, she was just happy to be alive with her siblings and getting to experience all her firsts within the world and the universe. But over time, Medusa slowly grew more and more bitter as she noticed herself aging where her siblings did not. She came to resent her parents and even their cousins, so her great aunts and uncles, in the form of Cronus and Rhea, who were birthing these gods and gifting all of their children with immortality. All of them, it seemed, except for her. She resented that she would one day die while her siblings would live on, both for the pain it caused herself knowing that she wouldn't get to be with them forever, and the pain it would cause them knowing that they'd one day have to give her up to death. So Medusa, day by day, slowly grew more and more bitter, not just to her siblings, but to all immortal beings. And slowly, over time, with her hatred and bitterness towards the gods, came her hatred and bitterness towards young heroes that they protected and that lived as their champions, even peasants that would enter the cave. At first, Medusa didn't necessarily wish to harm with her powers. They just were. It was just a fact of her existence that her gaze and her stare could kill. She wouldn't necessarily mean it, but as time wore on and her bitterness grew, and more mortals would visit upon her and her sisters thinking they needed to be slew, especially her immortal sisters before their time. Medusa started to use her abilities for ill, to cause ill to these young heroes that would dare approach herself and her siblings. And in her bitterness and madness, she also slowly started to grow more lonely, more isolated from her siblings, her great cousins, all of whom she knew could never understand the trials of being a being such as she was, supernatural, gifted with otherworldly abilities, and yet mortal with a finite lifespan. And as her loneliness grew and her bitterness grew, so did her collection of heroes and young mortal beings she had turned to stone. Until finally she met her match in a hero named Perseus. Before this, there was only one noted time, one noted exception in which Medusa had cared for any other being, had laid with any other being, had any sort of positive interaction with any other being, and that was her interaction with Poseidon. An interaction in which Poseidon came to her in the form of a bird and seduced her, with Medusa unknowing that she was being seduced by one of the immortal beings she very much loathed. And given the consistent conflict between Athena and Poseidon, Athena never forgave Medusa for this, for laying with her hated enemy. And that is obviously what spurred on the rather false myths that it was in fact Athena's wrath that turned Medusa. But Medusa, no. She was born as a Gorgon and a snake lady. Her children, however, were very much not. You see, when Medusa and Poseidon had laid together, Medusa became pregnant with his children, unknowingly to her. And then along came Perseus, a mortal hero, but one gifted and favored by the gods, who had heard of Medusa terrorizing these innocent mortals and had come to offer his services as a hero and to end her and her sisters. So Perseus came into their cave, and after a bit of a fight, he finally defeated Medusa, slicing her head open, and from her cut-off head came Chrysaor and the horse Pegasus, her children from Poseidon. You see, Pegasus, he left the earth to Zeus, to the being probably Medusa would have hated above all others. But Chrysaor decided he would not. He would remain on the earth and inhabit the earth and continue on. And though obviously Medusa couldn't see this, I'd imagine she would have been quite pleased that at least one of her children didn't fall victim to the design plan of the gods. And though that is the story of Medusa, that is where her bitterness and her hate for heroes and immortal beings and all that come with it lay, and that is where it started. In the hands of Porcus and Keto, parents who gave her siblings immortality, whose own siblings gave their children immortality, but who chose not to extend that same existence, that same love and choice and honor to Medusa. That's how she started as a Gorgon, and that's how she ended. Bitter, lonely, and unavenged.